Hey, what's up, everyone? Adrian here, and thanks again for taking time to join me for this episode 4. Today's episode is going to be on activity and how to track your activity, why it's important to track your activity when it comes to keeping track of your goals. So last podcast, I talked about goals. I talked about 3 major categories to stay on top of your goals that I call the sales cadence. It's revenue, funnel management, and activity. So as sales reps, we should be pretty good at managing our funnel and should be pretty good at managing the revenue coming in. But the third topic, activity, can be very difficult. A lot of us tend to forget this just because we get busy, we get reactive. So I'm going to spend today's episode on how to stay on top of your activity. So I hope you enjoy. As always, please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. See ya. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thanks again for coming in and taking time to spend with me on this episode 4. Today's episode, as I mentioned, is going to be on that third category when it comes to your process, your sales cadence, on staying on top of your goal. That third category being activity. All right, the first 2 are revenue and funnel management. Those should be down packed at this point. That third activity or that third category in activity is the one we forget about the most, believe it or not. We get so caught up in the day-to-day stuff. We're so reactive with our clients. We put out fires. We answer questions. We're in our emails and I'm guilty of this too, that we forget to stay on top of our activities. And what I mean by that is our proactive activities. That's the trainings that we're scheduling, right? That's the marketing documents that we're putting together. That's the call list that we're putting together. That's the different initiatives that we're putting together to help get to our goals. So we want to make sure that we stay on top of those activities so that we're generating more opportunities and filling up our funnel. So then we have a higher chance of closing those opportunities and then lifting up our revenue to get that much closer to our goal. So again, today's episode, I'm going to focus on those activities. I'm also going to dive in a little bit deeper on how to manage the ROI for each of those activities, because it's one thing to go out and do activities, right? But it's another thing to make sure that we're spending our time where it makes sense. For example, let's say that I am going to networking events. That's probably one of the most popular activities that you will do, because you'll go out and meet new people, and hopefully it leads to a new lead, which leads to a new opportunity, which then leads to potential order. Now, there are many different places that you can go and network. We all know this, right? So what I like to do is I like to find kind of top 4 different groups that I can join, and then go to those specific networking events. And then I evaluate which group is giving me most ROI, right? Which group am I getting more traction from? Am I building more relationships from? And I'm getting more back from. Because if there's one specific group or there's one event that I'm going to, say it's the chamber, for example, most people like to be a part of the chamber, but there's really nothing that we're getting out of it from an opportunity standpoint, then we want to make sure that we're spending our time where it makes sense. Now, that being said, we also want to make sure that when we're going out and we're networking and we're doing those activities, that we're looking to also help as well. Because the last thing we want to do when we go out and do these activities is come off as someone that just wants to take, and not give. So it's very similar to those starting new on social media. It's make sure you're taking care of other people and helping others and cultivating genuine relationships before you ask for anything in return. But it is important to go out, build your network, meet new people. That's one major big activity that you can be doing, is networking. It's very simple. It's very basic. Everyone is doing, and there's so many different people out there that have very good trainings, very good ideologies on how to network effectively. I'm going to create an episode solely on networking and why it's important and how to do it effectively. But that's one major activity that you can focus on that can help bring in new leads, more opportunities there leads to hopefully more revenue. Another great activity is going to be cultivating presentations, right? Is creating effective presentations. Now, it's one thing to copy and paste a presentation that was given to you by maybe your company or by a colleague. When you're creating presentations to go out and train your clients, you want, and this goes back to my last podcast, right? You want to make that your own, right? So this is a great activity, is creating an effective presentation that's going to be memorable for your clients. So take the time away from your emails, away from your day-to-day, to focus on that presentation and highlight what is relevant to your clients, what is relevant to what their needs may be, and also customize it based on who you're talking to. So many times us as sales reps, we get so lazy that we use the same darn presentation for every client, where every client's different. All right, so this activity is very important, and I'm going to do a separate podcast on presentation skills and how to generate effective presentations. But presentations are a major activity that can gain respect, gain credibility, and help get your foot in the door for that opportunity. So take the time to go through a PowerPoint and generate an effective presentation so that you can then come across as knowledgeable, someone that's credible, and someone that's going to take care of your client, so that they can come back to you with opportunities. So that's another great activity to focus on. One thing I like to do with presentations is I create a couple different kinds of presentations. And again, I go to my ROI, right? Which presentations are getting more traction, which presentations are not. And another good example to dive a little bit deeper is sometimes when I give presentations to my clients on sales skills and sales abilities and just more sales driven topics, I get more feedback and I get more engagement than really talking about what I sell, talking about the tangible product itself. People, I sell to sales reps, so they want to learn how to sell as well. They want to continue to grow and be effective with their clients. So they actually tend to gravitate more towards those presentations. So what's nice is that I can adjust the presentations that I built based off that feedback. So always take a look at the feedback, take a look at what you're getting from those presentations so that you can continue to innovate and change those presentations as you go. So that's activity number 2. Another major activity, very, very popular activity, believe it or not, is cold calling. Now, I personally am not the biggest fan of cold calling. I've done it in the past. There's very effective ways in doing this. Many different industries don't need it. A lot of other industries do. So it just kind of depends on where you work. It depends on the type of industry that you're in. Some industries, again, they do it all the time. They do it well. They train on it. In some industries, they don't really need it. It's a little bit different. But cold calling is a very effective activity. Now, this is a very important one to keep track of the ROI, because it's one thing to say, let's just say you have a quota of making 100 calls a week, right? That's what your company's asking you to do. In most entry-level sales positions, it's what you do. You got to pay your dues. You go, that's how you get experience. That's how you build that thick skin so that you can go out and continue to build your sales career. So most companies will say, hey, do 100 calls per week, make those effective and learn from them, right? That's what I mean by ROI on those calls. Don't just make 100 calls because somebody asked you to. Go get something out of those 100 calls, right? Get some major ROI out of those, whether that's more knowledge, better presentation skills, or opportunities. But get your pitch down. Don't take too much time out of your clients when you're doing those cold calls. Make it short, simple. Remember, on those cold calls, on these activities, you're trying to get to the appointment. Schedule the appointment. That's the most important aspect of that activity, of that cold call, is you need to get to the next step. Need to get to that presentation. You're not going to close a deal on a cold call unless you're a super awesome and amazing. Good for you. Great. But you're not going to close a deal on a cold call. Those are meant to get to the next step. Okay, that's when you go and pitch. That's when you go and pitch your value proposition, talk about your company. On the cold call is try and get that appointment. Try and generate enough interest in that small amount of time that you have to get to that next opportunity. Again, not a lot of people are a big fan of cold calling, and I'll be honest, I am not a huge fan of cold calling. I don't do it a lot much more, but that's because I have paid my dues. I had done cold calling already. I've been through that. So those you entry level new into sales, it's a great way to gain experience, and you can make it fun. But you definitely, if there's any category you want to keep track of ROI, it's going to be this one, because you want to make sure you're making effective calls and you're using your time effectively as well. And the last activity that you want to do is manage your sales cadence, right? So not only are you managing the activities that you're doing, with your clients, you want to manage yourself too. This is a major activity as well. Manage your calendar, man. This all goes down to time management. This is a huge category in sales, time management. I can do a 3-hour podcast on just time management itself. It's a major category. This will be a topic that I'll discuss on another podcast, but manage yourself. So take time to take a look at your calendar. I like to take a look at it on a quarterly basis. What does the next 3 months look like at a high level? And then the month is a little bit more detailed, so I can see what appointments are going on in the month and making sure I'm doing all my activities, making sure I have appointments scheduled, making sure I have presentations scheduled, making sure I have time set out to do my calls, making sure I have enough networking events fit in there to go out and balance the activity that I'm doing. And then as I'm keeping track of that ROI, right, per activity, the calendar changes based on what's giving you the most return. So there's 3 major categories for activities that are probably my most important ones, which is presentations, it's going out, networking, being out there in front of people, and cold calling. Those are the 3 big ones. And then making sure that you're managing all that and managing yourself as well. So take time to keep track of everything that you're doing and stay on top of your sales cadence. So stay on top of your activity, and then also stay on top of your funnel and stay on top of your revenue as well. So I know that was a lot to go through. I can talk about activity for hours, but I wanted to focus on those 3 major categories for you. As always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. If there's anything you took away from today, is just to manage yourself. Really it, right? Read books on time management, watch videos on it. I'll do a video on it, but make sure that you're managing yourself and staying on top of the activities you're doing, and you're getting the most out of your time, because your time is valuable. And as everyone says, time is money. So thanks again for your time, and enjoy the rest of your week. See ya.